NSJT, Jezreel, Emil, Kavan. We must break free. We must begin our lives as if tomorrow is never going to come. We must live in the moment and live in today. We must be molders and shapers of the future. We must say to ourselves that we are greater than anything by any measure. We must not be afraid of the enemy, but we must take control and tame the enemy. We must put chains on him so that he may not hurt or harm another. We are called the children of destiny for a reason. We must behold our destiny in this hour, in this moment, in this day. I call to the powers of the earth. I call to the powers of heaven to allow us to be able to see the reality of the world as it is, to tell us why we suffer, why we go through. I pray to the power of wisdom to give us the foresight of what is yet to come, because I tell you, now is the time. We live in a world that is dominated by money, but money is only paper. All the things that we must have in life to survive is free from the Father. It is man who has chosen to take over with authority and tell us that we have to buy water that falls from the sky, that ends up in the ocean. He is the one that tells us that we must buy fruits and vegetables that come from the earth. He is the one that tells us that we got to pay for the meat that we eat, although those things come from heaven. While he tries to grip the unparalleled forces, he has yet to lay grip on the Father himself, the Alpha, the Omega. While they're so busy looking for the God particle, saying that they found the God particle, they have not found anything yet. They cannot determine what anything is yet. Science is still trying to prove where the soul is and where the soul goes, how we are in existence. Science is so busy trying to determine what is real and what is not real, to push things to the point of reality, taking dreams and making them into something new. But Ecclesiastes says there's nothing new done underneath the sun that has not been done before. So in that moment that you sit in the darkness and you wonder who has your back, who loves you, who is defending you, I want you to know that it is the God that sits in heaven. It is the God that sits before the throne of the 24 elders. It is the God that sits there as the Lamb who is slain, remains on the floor. It is time for you to know thyself. It is time for you to love thyself. It is time for you to move beyond the realm of just speaking. It's time for you to start living your truth, walking in your truth. Not allowing yourself to be lost, to be hurt, to be stripped of your peace of mind, stripped of your faith. I know there's a lot of churches out here who preaches a message, have it all tightened up and all written out, saying that they come because they were chosen by God to do it. And yet they still don't understand. They don't understand the power of God. They don't understand the authority of God. They don't understand the mystery of God. They refuse to go in the book of Revelations. They refuse to talk about the prophecy of the end of the world. They're afraid to tell you that what you have been doing your whole life is you living in error. It is time for you to have hope again. Hope in yourself. Hope in the nation that is rising up, that's now starting to realize the schemes and the games and the ploys of the kings of men, those who rule over the earth, those who do not live by the laws by which they dispatch to us, those who call themselves Pharisees and scribes, those who consider themselves the authority on subjects and still do not understand the basic concept by which they have been grown, the foundation of God, the foundation of wisdom. They don't understand how these things mutually exist. They don't understand how the mind and the heart and the body is still controlled by the most powerful force, the spirit by which God put inside of us. No scientist can tell you where the soul goes after it leaves the body. They can only talk about death. But they can't tell you what happens after death. They can't tell you who you are or why you are. They can just tell you that you were born. But I can tell you that you were born into a world by which you had no understanding of. God is pure wisdom. He doesn't need an instruction manual how to do anything. He just knows how to move because he created all these things. He moves in the fashion of his time, and he moves in the fashion of his authority. He moves in the fashion of his ways. And until you begin to understand that God is something that is beyond the realm of your mind, then you don't know anything. God is not mysterious. He solves mysteries unto the minds of those who are willing to be enlightened. There's so many walking around calling themselves prophets. So many walking around calling themselves saints. So many walking around calling themselves righteous. And yet, they do nothing that is righteous. They do nothing that a saint will do. They do nothing that a calling of God has taught them to do. It is time for us to break free from the mentality of ignorance. Wake up from the delusion that we have been under. We have been used as pawns in a chess game. It is about the greed of the kings of men by which we live. We live in the richest nation on the face of this earth, and we complain about things every single day. But there are those who are starving. There are those who are dying of malaria and cholera and all kinds of diseases. There are those who are drinking water that they went to the bathroom in, that they washed their clothes in. There are those who are struggling. There are those who are struggling. I say it again, there are those who drink the water that they go to the bathroom in, drink the water that they wash their clothes in. There are those who are dying of cholera and malaria and all types of diseases, and yet we sit here and complain about how much money we make an hour. There are those who are living off for $2 a day and less. There are those who are sitting in the third world country looking at the richest country in the world and saying, why? Why were they blessed and not me? As we sit and say, why me? Why not me? Why not you? We were born with a destiny, and it's time for us to wake up and follow that destiny. It's time for us to be bold and courageous. It's time for us to take our gifts and move forward, not backwards. It is time for us to realize that man shaped this world with the power and allegiance of the enemy. So therefore we are trapped in a maze like a rat, trying to find our way out. I say unto you, behold the coming of the nation of God that we serve, the nation of a higher power, a nation sent to do its job, to give its testimony to those who will hear, to those who will see. Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest does not fit us. It is based on the logic of animals, and we are much more than an animal. Man has a conscious brain. We can decide to be strong when we want. We can decide to be soft when we want. We can decide to do the right thing when we want, or we can decide to do the wrong thing if we want. But justice is not one of the things that we choose. We say when we go to court that we are judged by our peers, but he without sin cast the first stone. I know the things that happen in this world is horrific and is a tragedy. But you must ask yourselves where this tragedy and this horrific existence come from. It comes from the actions of man and the lack of action of men. It comes from us turning the blind eye to our brothers and sisters, to our neighbors, to our loved ones, to our friends, to those that we feel are unworthy to be in our society. Yes, I believe that we consciously decide who we love and who we don't love, who we like and who we don't like, based on what we see on the outside, not what's on the inside. And I'm telling you, it's time to break free of the mentality that we know what we're doing when we are only supposed to be doing God's will. It's not about us doing our will. We must love each other equally. We must love each other to death. We must be willing to give our testimony and die for our testimony. We must be driven to do the things that no generation has ever done in its life. It is time for us to break free. It's time for us to break others free. It's time for us to light the light that is inside of us so everyone must see who we are. We cannot afford to continue living a life where our actions hurts others, where our deeds hurt others. We must perform good deeds before the Lord. We must begin to solve the problems of our world, because there are those in the third world country, there are those in our own country waiting on us to begin to speak for them, to begin to use the voice that God has given us to change the world. We must define ourselves not by what we have, not by what we want, but by our morals, by our convictions, by our principles. We must move away from the theory of oppression. And the theory of oppression says that if I hold you back for so long, that eventually you will begin to hold your own self back. Eventually you will begin to destroy your own self. And that is the theory that we live in now, the theory of oppression. I'll hold you back for so long. Now that you are free, you begin to hold yourself back based on your own knowledge of being held back. It is somebody else's problem, it's not yours. I'm here to tell you it is your problem. Death is knocking on your door. It is time for us to be free. It's time for us to break free.